So stand by. Did you hear about Twitter? They might be selling to Google.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, it would be a big get for Google for sure.
Yeah, be interesting to see what they would do with it.
Hopefully, they wouldn't scuttle it like everything else they've.
I know that's the only thing.
All right, hang on. Let me to retweet my own tweet from my other account. All right. Right. All right, and we're going to record the audio. There we go. All right. Let's get going here. Our guest on this episode of Galactic Radio is a science writer and broadcaster specializing in astronomy and space science. He's also recently published a Star Trek book, Star Trek: The Official Guide to Our Universe, the true science behind the Starship voyages. Welcome, Andrew Fazekas. Andrew, hello.
Hi, Dave. Nice to be here.
Well, thanks for coming on. I'm really excited to talk to you about all things science and sci-fi. You're a pretty busy guy. Where can people find you talking about all that you talk about, science, astronomy, space, that kind of stuff?
Well, I do both broadcast and online media, so folks can catch me. I write a weekly column at National Geographic called Starstruck, where I introduce people every week on what's up in the night sky. So that comes out every Monday. And then on top of that, I have my website, The Night Sky Guy, and Facebook with the same handle, and Twitter as well, The Night Sky Guy. And I am on CTV News Channel in Canada every Sunday morning doing a space news roundup for folks out there. That's been a popular segment for a number of years now.
I look forward to it every single Sunday.
That's good. I'm glad to hear there's some people watching. That's great on Sunday mornings.
I'm sure there's many people watching, Andrew. So I can't wait to talk to you about the book. But to start off, tell us about the website. What can people find at thenightskyguide.com?
Well, it's basically gives you an idea of what's up in the night sky on a monthly basis. Lets people, I share all my different articles that I do publish regularly about the night sky, astronomy news as well. I like to share some of the things that come across my desk as a journalist. I'm very fortunate to be tapped into a lot of the latest research that's being done around the world by leading scientists. And whenever there's some new press releases coming onto my desk that I know are going to be really exciting developments in the space exploration and astronomy news world, I like to share that with the public. Some really cool stuff on a regular basis, and I give people an update of where I'm going to be or what I'm going to be doing, especially now regarding updates with the Star Trek book that's been recently published this summer.
So I know we're going to talk. I already have a question about the biggest story of the year, but what is one of the biggest stories of maybe the past week as far as space or, NASA, that kind of stuff?
My gosh, there's always something new. It's hard to choose nowadays. We're really living in a very fast-paced world. I would say one of the really cool things is that if we're looking at hardcore astronomy news, I would say there's new analysis being done on what's called the Hubble Deep Field, which is very exciting because Hubble Deep Field is this iconic set of images that the Hubble Space Telescope has done over the last 20 years that they've been updating on a regular basis. That's really pushing the boundaries of our understanding of the universe, of how large it is. And these images that Hubble has taken are really of galaxies that pepper this beautiful photograph that are really at the edge of the known universe, pushing back, of course, not just in terms of space, but time as well. Because the farther we look in space, the deeper in time we're looking back in time into the early part of the universe. So there's been a development actually this past week where they've actually been able to mine these photographs and even push back farther the time period of how far we're looking. We're talking about maybe looking as far back as close to the Big Bang as about 800 million years from the time of the Big Bang. That may sound like a lot, but when you say that the universe, as we think, is 13.8 billion years old. 800 million from the time of the Big Bang is really a short time period. So that's a big news. And something that's coming up next week, that's on my radar, is Elon Musk and SpaceX. They're going to be announcing, the billionaire owner of SpaceX, private space company that's launching rockets to low Earth orbit, resupplying the space station, is now making a manned capsule that astronauts will be using to shuttle back and forth from the space station, but he's adapting it to go to Mars. And SpaceX wants to be the first entity to send humans to Mars, and they're really fast tracking everything, and they'll be making a very cool announcement next week about their Dragon space capsule about going to Mars. Everybody's really making big buzz on the internet.
And speaking of going back in time, so at the end of this year, looking back, what do you think is going to be the biggest or most exciting science or space story of the year?
In terms of space science, I think one of the big ones that holds a lot of potential and we'll be hearing a lot more of is the discovery of a potential habitable planet at the closest star to Earth. And it's Proxima Centauri b is the name of this planet. It's a little bit larger than the Earth, and they think may have habitable conditions. And what's exciting about it is that it's only 4.2 light years away. This is the closest planet, an Earth-like planet, that could exist to us. And we're all excited about finding out more information. Does it actually have an atmosphere? Does it potentially hold oceans or liquid water on its surface? And it would become, in the future, the most likely destination that we'll send our first interstellar spacecraft to. So it's very exciting.
How would scientists find out that information about the planet?
Well, looking for planets is, we don't actually see the planets themselves. We're actually looking at the effect the planets have on their parent stars. The light from these stars are so bright that they basically, the glare is so strong that it blocks out the feeble reflected light off the surfaces of these planets that are just orbiting very, very close to them. So from our point of view, the glare of the star is just too much. So what we do is we look at, for instance, the eclipses that these planets have around their stars. So we would be able to see a dip in the starlight as a planet moves in front of the star as it orbits. Or we look at the wobble of the star. In this case, we've looked at the wobble of Proxima Centauri, this star, and we've been able to determine from that wobble, which is basically caused by the gravitational tug and pull of those planets as they're whirling around the star. They tug on that star back and forth and makes it wobble. And so we can tell from that wobble, believe it or not, how many planets are revolving around it and how large they are, their masses, some really basic physical properties from it. So that's how we've actually made this discovery with Proxima Centauri.
All right, for skywatchers, what are some exciting things to look forward to this fall and winter?
Well, right now, I think we should, talking about planets, that's where all the action is. In the evening sky, after sunset, about a half hour to an hour after sunset, folks should look towards the western horizon, southwest western horizon, where the sun has set locally in your neck of the woods, and look up about halfway up the sky, and you'll see a triangular formation of stars. Very bright stars, you can't miss them. And what's neat is that there's a color differences in the star, and two of those stars out of the three stars are in fact planets. So you can see planet Mars, which glows as a very bright orange light, with a bright orange light that's very easy to see. And next to it, to its right, upper right, is a yellow creamy colored star, very bright again. That in fact is planet Saturn. So it's amazing to see two planets close to each other like that. It's not every day you get to see that. And they're easily visible with the naked eye. And for anyone who has a telescope maybe dusting away in the closet somewhere that you may have gotten for a birthday gift or Christmas gift, bring it out. This is your chance to actually see some real stuff in the cosmos with your own eyes. And I'll tell you, looking at Saturn through even the smallest telescope is going to knock your socks off, because you can see those magnificent rings that that make it so famous of a planet, you could actually see that with a small telescope. So those are things that it's easy sights. You can see it within city limits, even under light pollution, something everyone can enjoy.
So let's talk about the Star Trek book, Star Trek: The Official Guide to the Universe. So what will people find when they pick it up and page through it?
Oh my gosh, the book, obviously you can tell that my passion is towards astronomy, the wonders of the universe. So I've jam-packed this book with references that cross references between the fictional universe of Star Trek with our own real life universe. There's actually a lot of counterparts, real life counterparts to objects that those great, amazing voyages of Star Trek through all the different episodes and movies we saw. There's some real life counterparts there to those destinations, be they planets and stars and gas clouds and star clusters. They're all there, even in our real universe. So what I've done here is I've looked at different types of objects, categorized them between planets and exoplanets, stars and such, and start off the discussion with your favorite Star Trek episode that includes those objects in their plot lines or visually very appealing episodes, and talk about the fictional appearance of those objects, astronomical objects. Then I talk about the science. I introduce people to what the real science, what we really know about these objects. And then I take people outside and look to outside their front doorsteps to look up in the night sky and have their own cosmic adventure and find the real life counterparts to those objects that they saw in their favorite Star Trek episode.
Okay, one second. I lost my train of thought for a second. I hate when that happens. Where can people find the book?
It's available everywhere, basically anywhere where books are sold. So you can go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble, Chapters in Canada, any independent book dealer, even your library has them. So you can pick it up practically anywhere.
And I'm sure that you have details on your website as to where people can find it, right?
Yeah, I've got links to where you can go right away and purchase it on Amazon, either in the US or Canada, no problem.
How long did it take you to put this book together?
My gosh, it was the whole genesis of this book. It really goes back about 10 years, I'd say, where I started putting together the idea of having a book based on astronomical objects. The whole idea of astronomy, the seed for this book, really was planted more like 20 years ago when I did a lot of outreach events, astronomical outreach events, basically star parties with the general public, and bringing folks to look through my telescope at the night sky. What I noticed is that people would really get intrigued by what I'm showing them if I would weave in something about Star Trek and having that connection with a Star Trek episode. And so what I decided to do is start putting together a list of those objects, a master list that I would have at the telescope to show them stuff that's in Star Trek, that's in the night sky, and it would invoke a great discussion with folks of all ages. So that was really the skeleton or framework of the book that I had for many years. And then 10 years ago, I put together a general synopsis of, hey, this would make a really potentially a great book. And then 2 years ago, after working many years as a columnist for National Geographic, I was actually approached by the book division of National Geographic, who'd been apparently fans of my column that I write, saying that they would like me to write something about stargazing. And in our short discussion, they asked me, unless I have any other ideas for a book. And I said, hold on, I think I got something maybe that you might be interested in. And I pitched them the Star Trek idea, and sure enough, they got hooked. And they said that it's a perfect storm because in 2 years' time, which was 2016 now, the 50th anniversary is coming. The new reboot movie is scheduled to come out. It really was a perfect time. And now, of course, we know that there's a new television series coming out as well. So it really is the perfect storm for this book to really come out. And it was 2 years of really hard work. Watching all those episodes, really hard work, my friend.
I'm sure that was really a pain, right? That was a chore to watch all those episodes.
That was the worst part, right? Watching all those episodes from all the series. But I have a newfound appreciation for Star, having watched so many. And I got to tell you, one of those little things, I got to give a shout out to the animated series. Nobody talks about the animated series back in 1973. They were done by the original, the voices were done by the original cast members. Shatner was there, Nimoy, you know, DeForest Kelly's there. They had the real original voices, and they have a great scientific foundation. So anyone who hasn't seen the animated series, you gotta check it out. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Did you have to get permission from Paramount and CBS to put this book together?
Oh yeah, definitely. Look, we knew right away from the beginning, from the get-go, that if we wanted to do this book justice, it has to have, you know, tons of Star Trek stuff in there, visuals, right? So to have those visuals, we had to have the permission. And we were looking for really special things. About 80% of the Star Trek visuals and astronomical visuals that you see there were chosen by me personally. I'm very proud of that, because a lot of the things that are there have never been in print before. They didn't even exist. So there was no digital file that they had in the archives at CBS, because there was no requests made for something like that. Because what I was looking for was scenes, screen grabs that showed the astronomical images mostly. I really tried to get as much as I could in there, the representations. So I would literally, while watching the shows, I would go, all right, I would freeze frame it and see what the timestamp was, and send my requests in saying, look, I'm looking for this. And sometimes they would say, look, it doesn't exist. Give us some time. We got to digitize it and find it from the original films. So it's something that was really cool. They were awesome. CBS was on board, and they told us from the beginning that this was a kind of a project that CBS had been really dying to do for a long time. And this was just the right time and the right place to get it done.
That is so awesome. That must have made you feel so good too, right?
As a Star Trek fan, lifelong Star Trek fan, it was amazing to know that I had the support. And just 2 weeks ago, I met the vice president of consumer products at CBS, who came to Mission, New York, to the big Star Trek convention, and came up and personally thanked me. That, you know, he says he loves the book and it really does Star Trek justice. And to hear that coming from them, you know, from the owners of the franchise, really, you know, it means a lot to me.
How was Mission New York?
It was a dream. I mean, it was crazy because there's so many people, and the convention center is absolutely enormous. The Javits Convention Center in Manhattan, it's enormous. We have beautiful glass building, very ultra modern, perfect venue, I think, for, you know, a sci-fi franchise like this. And it was filled with fans. It's just that you feel the great vibe and the excitement from the thousands of people, you know, throngs of people going to all these different panels, packed. I was very fortunate to participate in a couple of panels, science panels, and just, you know, you could see the fans were really interested. I did a couple of book signings as well, where I got to interact with the fans coming up and telling me their stories and their love for Star Trek, you know, that goes back, you know, to their childhood, like it does with so many. And what was really my highlight was I got to meet most of the cast members from the different shows that were attending.
Whoa.
Yes, that was awesome. And I actually ended up getting my own book copy signed by as many of the members that I could, you know, and I ended up meeting William Shatner, who wrote the foreword to my book, and spent a little time with him. He was really a very, very funny guy. And so he didn't disappoint, is what I was expecting. I also met a lot of the cast members from The Next Generation and also from Voyager as well. Really, really, really nice people. I met Walter Koenig as well, Chekhov, the original Chekhov. Fantastic man, very gracious. Everyone seemed to really love the book, and I managed to really introduce them to it. And what they particularly like is the educational potential value of the book and introducing people to Star Trek, but and science at the same time. So it was really nice that they got it. A lot of the cast members really appreciated it. So that was the big takeaway for me from the convention.
All right, you were talking about Shatner, and of course, you're a big Star Trek fan because of this book. I mean, not because of this book, but because you're a fan. You wrote this book in a way. So, who would you consider your captain? Like, I know that you're a lifelong Star Trek fan. So, who's your captain?
It really depends on the mood I'm in, but I'm a playful kind of guy, and Shatner is the one that comes. I just love that he's out of the box with a lot of stuff. He's a real swashbuckler kind of character. I liken him a lot to Errol Flynn, the old, classic actor.
Yep.
And he was his character of Kirk, the way he portrayed it, it's just really fun to watch. Then you have, Captain Picard, which is, a more philosophical kind of guy, makes you want to sit down maybe with a nice brandy, in front of the fireplace and have a nice long chat with Captain Picard, right? But to have an adventure maybe out there, really have an adventure, Captain Kirk is the character. And you can see that still go through in the reboot series, right? If you look at the reboot series, you get the same feeling with the new actor, a younger version of Kirk. They held on to those characteristics that are so iconic from the Captain Kirk character. I really like that.
This new series that's coming out next year, what are your hopes for it as far as the show in general, but also the way they portray science and astronomy?
Well, when it comes to science and astronomy, I do hope they continue the tradition of having that solid baseline to it. I think they will, because the right kind of writers are involved who know Star Trek, have been involved in Star Trek before. The executive producers, Gene Roddenberry's son Rod is involved directly as an executive producer as well. So these folks should know the value of science that it has in fleshing out Star Trek adventures, because that cosmic canvas in the background of Star Trek now almost has to be hyper realistic in many sense. That's what audiences are expecting. We're very savvy now with our computer technology, internet, connecting us with space missions, Hubble Space Telescope images showing you these high-def images of the universe. We're expecting a lot. And Star Trek has never disappointed in giving us a ringside seat to astronomical delights, right? So I'm expecting we're going to get the same thing from Star Trek Discovery when it comes out in May. And I'm hoping that the idea that desire for curiosity and exploring the final frontier is still there. That's pretty much ingrained in Star Trek. So I'm expecting they'll stay true to that.
Okay, one more question before we leave. What's the geekiest thing that you're into that most people don't know about you, Andrew?
Geekiest thing?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if it's that geeky, but I'm really into tiki. I don't know if you know tiki stuff. Tiki is it was really hot in the 1950s and 60s. It's sort of this Polynesian type of retro artwork, and also drinks, cocktail drinks. And it's really come into fashion in the last few years. It's been caught up. I'm caught up in this fad of tiki. I have tiki art. I've learned how to mix certain kind of unusual cocktails with the eye of a chemist, sort of to say. So it's, really mixing all these amazing libations, like the scorpion, the zombie, and all these classic stuff. I'm really into that kind of stuff. That's what I like when I have some downtime. I like to do, and the same thing with retro kind of sci-fi. I'm really into retro, looking up old movies from the 50s and 60s. They're very campy, but they're a lot of fun.
Do you ever look up, because there's a great website called Archive.org, and if you did a search, I'm sure you could find some really, really old, like, classic sci-fi TV shows and movies on there if you did a quick search.
Yeah, I didn't know about it. That's something that sounds like up my alley. Exactly. This is the kind of stuff I like to do on my downtime.
Andrew Fazekas, thanks for coming on with me today. Where can people find you and your stuff off and online?
Well, definitely people can find me online at thenightskyguy.com. That's where I'd love to answer any questions people have about Star Trek, the connections between Star Trek science and the real science, and of course the night sky. If anyone's wondering about the night sky or thinking about purchasing a telescope maybe or some equipment, I'm your man. So you can drop me a line. Just go to my website, thenightskyguy.com, and I have my email address right there. And they can, of course, see me every Sunday morning. In Canada, you can see me on CTV News channel and on National Geographic's Facebook page. I have a live video that I do every Monday introducing the night sky, so you can check me out there too every Monday.
All right. Thank you very much, Andrew.
My pleasure. I wish everyone clear skies and live long and prosper.